I wasn't expecting anything special from the trip, just another decaying landmark, an abandoned ward, a few rusted gurneys, maybe some graffiti tagged by kids who'd never heard the screams this place used to hold. One more notch on the urbex belt. Letchworth had been on my list for years. Opened in 1911, shuttered in 96. Mostly gutted now, by time, vandals, by the slow grind of weather. I'd seen pictures, knew the lore, knew what was left, or thought I did. That weekend, I had nothing but time and silence to burn, so I packed up and headed north, alone, until the air was fresh again. I left the car behind a curtain of overgrowth, checked my gear twice, and started walking. The air was still, thick and wet, like it hadn't moved in hours. The birds overhead whispered, but the path underfoot felt odd, like it knew I didn't belong there. The buildings looked like mausoleums, and the place had long since fallen into disrepair, showing signs of its age draped across the grounds and walls. The main hall still had its metal placard. Someone had tagged a red smiley face over the bronze, right where the word village used to be. I clicked on my flashlight and stepped inside. Dust floated in the beam like a sheet of tiny debris. The hallway split left and right, both sides stretched into shadow. Water damage bled across the ceiling in long, inky stains. Floor tiles shifted under my boots with every step, cracking just enough to sound like distant echoes. I moved slow, took some shots, found filing cabinets swollen shut with rust and a gurney bent inward, as if someone had jumped on it, or been dropped onto it. Still didn't feel eerie like I'd expected. It just felt empty. Until I caught movement in the tree line, through a window, frame neglected and decayed. It wasn't a deer or anything like that. It was a person. Nothing but a shadow coming toward the building with no flashlight or gear, just walking. I stepped back, out of sight, watched them slip between the trees like they knew exactly where they were going, like they'd done it before. I waited 2 full minutes. No sound, no doors creaking open, and no footsteps. They never came in. Well, at least, I hoped they hadn't. The morgue was in the basement. I'd seen it online, steel drawers, rusted slabs, the works. Figured I'd save it for last. But I shouldn't have. The hallway down was narrower. The air was thick, and even just existing began to require effort. Then I started hearing things. First, something faint, metal tapping on metal, far off. Then closer, dragging, scraping. I kept going. The morgue door was ajar when I reached it. Warped floor tiles buckled beneath my boots, and I nearly went down before catching myself on the frame. The smell wasn't rot, it was subtler. Wet dust, old walls, the stench of time itself. I lifted my camera and swept the room. Scrawled on the wall in black marker, thick and jagged, a note read, "Hi Dylan," with a heart and a smiley face drawn next to it. My name. The heart. The smile. I stopped cold. No one knew I was there. I hadn't told a soul. Not where I was going, not when, not even that I was going. Next came the bats. They tore from the ceiling vent in a screeching storm. Wings, claws, chaos. And I barely got low before they were swarming past me, a burst of frantic black. I scrambled out of the morgue, through the corridors and back into sunlight. I didn't stop until the building was behind me and I had space to think. I told myself I was done with this, urbex, trespassing, all of it. That some places don't want to be found. And I believed it, for a while. A week slipped by before anything felt off. It started subtle. My bedroom fan shut off sometime after midnight. I figured it was a surge or a flicker, except the alarm clock hadn't reset, and nothing else had either. Then my phone started acting strange. One night it plummeted from 40% to 0 in an instant. No warning, just black. When I plugged it in, the screen lit up like nothing had happened. Same time, same apps still open. No reboot or loading bar, it just flashed back to life. I wrote it off. Lithium batteries are unpredictable, right? Chalk it up to age, glitch, ghost rage, something. Then the laptop screen went dark. I was mid-scroll, reading some niche horror blog to unwind, when it just flicked to black. And then symbols began to appear. Thin, angular shapes, stuttering into view like static pressed into shape. They were white against the void, pulsing in erratic bursts. No letters or code I recognized, something between script and geometry. I slammed the lid shut, yanked the power cord, let it sit on the floor like it might start humming or speaking. That night was a sleepless one. There were sounds, not in the room, but around it, inside the walls maybe, or in that hollow space above the ceiling where the pipes run. Soft tapping, one knock, long pause, then another, like some kind of rhythm. It wasn't rodents or wind, I don't think. It had real presence, maybe even intent. The next day passed like a blur. I was running on fumes, buzzed and brittle. Everything felt slightly off axis, like the world had been rotated half a degree when I wasn't looking. I forced myself through the motions, brewed coffee, folded laundry, paid a bill I don't even remember racking up. And there it was again. A message, lightly etched into the edge of my desk, right where my forearm usually rests. Hi. With that same smiley and heart next to it. Same shape, but slightly smaller this time, and neater. I ran my finger over it. Shallow but recent, dust still clinging to the grain. No name this time, but it didn't need one. Just a prank, I whispered aloud. Someone followed me home, thought it'd be funny. But I live alone. And I never posted about the trip. I didn't even keep the photos. I wiped the SD card that night, right after I got home. I think something wanted me to get rid of them. I started sleeping with the lights on. Not all of them, just the kitchen overhead and the hallway sconce. Enough to spill a soft glow across the floorboards. Enough to remind myself that walls still meant something, that darkness hadn't claimed everything. But boundaries don't mean much when something's already inside. I first caught it in the mirror, just a flicker, a shape sliding behind me as I brushed my teeth. I spun so fast I flung toothpaste on the wall, heart hammering, but the hallway stood still and empty. I checked the locks again. Deadbolt secure, chain set, windows sealed, screens untouched. The bathroom light buzzed audibly that night, an electric hum that I hadn't noticed before, and I left it on. The next evening, I came home and found my name, Dylan, written in the fogged glass of my bedroom window. It hadn't rained. The air wasn't humid. The fan had been running all day, loud and strained, blades ticking with each rotation like a metronome. I wiped the glass clean, didn't photograph it. I didn't want proof. Proof makes things real. That night, I unplugged everything. Phone, laptop, anything that could watch or listen. I even flipped the breaker to the living room. I didn't want peace. I wanted the noises to stop. What I got was something else. Around 2 a.m., I woke to a soft, scraping sound. It came from the closet. Not behind the door, inside it. As if claws were moving through the hollow core itself, tracing the frame from within. I couldn't move. I watched the door flex, just slightly, with each drag of whatever was on the other side. It went on for minutes or maybe longer. Time distorted and folded in on itself. My limbs refused to cooperate. I don't remember falling back asleep, just waking up soaked in sweat, bed sheets coiled around me like restraints. The closet door was still shut, but the fan had stopped again, and the word "hi" was written on the wall behind my headboard in thick black Sharpie. But the heart was upside down this time. I didn't go to work that next day. I called in sick, but that wasn't quite true. I wasn't sick, I just couldn't leave my house. Not while everything was ramping up. I spent the whole day cleaning, not because the place was messy, because I couldn't sit still. Every time I slowed down, I felt it. Something watching me. Like if I stood still too long, this thing would somehow be made real. Movement kept tugging at the edges of my vision, always in the same places. The mirror, the window, the dark screen of my laptop. By noon, I'd covered them all. Blankets, towels, duct tape, anything I had. But then, when I came out of the bathroom, my laptop was open again. I hadn't touched it. I hadn't gone near it. The screen glowed faintly. No icons or desktop, just the same flickering language. Symbols blinking white on white like glitched snow. They stuttered once, then slid into a new shape. One word. Home. I slammed it shut and shoved it under the bed like it was venomous. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. That night, I tried something new. I sat cross-legged in the living room, with every light blazing, and spoke into the silence like it might answer. "What do you want?" No reply, just the dull hum of the lights. "Why me?" The hallway light buzzed, then dimmed for a half second. And something moved across the kitchen floor, quick and deliberate. Not skittering, more like pacing. I didn't follow it. Instead, I crouched by the coffee table and saw the carving, neatly etched into the wood on the underside, where no one would ever think to look. "It's better here," it said. The letters weren't rushed or messy. They looked careful and measured. I don't know why I did it, but I grabbed my phone and took a picture. The screen lit up and instantly, the battery plunged from 76% back to black. Phone dead, lights out. Every bulb in the apartment winked out in sequence, one after another like someone had unscrewed them one by one. The quiet after was unreal. And then, from the bedroom, the sound of shuffling footsteps. Slow and irregular, as if whatever this was had trouble moving. But I couldn't move. The footsteps certainly could, though. It scraped across the floorboards, steady, dragging something behind it. It stopped just outside the living room door, and the handle turned. The door opened inward, but nothing stood there. Then my name was whispered. Soft and girlish, right against my ear. The next morning, I woke on the floor just after sunrise. My neck ached like I'd fallen asleep, folded into some impossible shape. Every light in the apartment was back on, the fan too, spinning steadily, like none of it had ever happened. But I remembered. The whisper, the open door, my name etched into the desk, the laptop spelling out home like it had colonized my bedroom. I checked under the coffee table again. The carving was gone. I told myself I must have dreamed it, that it was some kind of sleep paralysis or stress fugue brought on by too many nights without real rest. But my phone still wouldn't turn on, and when I finally plugged it in, it didn't boot up normally. It sparked to life right where I'd left it, 76% camera open. I tapped into the photo I'd taken, but it wasn't of the carving. It was me, kneeling beneath the table, staring straight into the lens, eyes wide, mouth half open like I was mid-sentence. I don't remember taking it. I don't remember looking at the camera. I don't even remember holding the phone. And there was something behind me, just barely visible in the shadows of the hallway. A shape, slender, childlike, but not quite. It was too tall and its shape was strangely misformed. I deleted it, or thought I did. It keeps showing up again, every morning. Same image, same file name. I haven't touched the laptop since, but sometimes, late at night, I see the glow of the screen under the bed, just enough to cast a sliver of light on the carpet. My name still shows up on the bathroom mirror. Not every day, only when I've gone long enough to believe it's over. The last carving appeared yesterday. Small, almost delicate, scratched into the bottom of my dresser, right above the carpet. "Thanks for bringing me home," it said. I haven't gone back to Letchworth. I won't. I don't even like saying the name anymore. But I think about that basement, the bats and the shadow in the woods, and I wonder, did I imagine it all? Or did something follow me home? Thank you for joining me on today's journey. Please click the like button, tap the subscribe button, and ring that bell. It helps us reach more people like you. And if you'd like more, our Patreon supporters get early access and exclusive content you won't find anywhere else. Links in the description. There are always more dark stories to tell. I'll see you next time. Take care.